Imagine a mighty kingdom where a king is not only famous for his exceptional wisdom, but also for his unimaginable wealth and power, surpassing anyone else. That king was Solomon, the son of David, a man blessed by God with unparalleled wisdom. However, his wisdom and talent could not shield him from the temptations of the world. Solomon, despite the immense blessings from God, ended his life in sorrow, regret, and remorse. So what happened to this great king? How did someone so favored by God end up with such a tragic fate? From the moment Solomon ascended the throne, God appeared to him in a dream and asked, "Ask for whatever you want, and I will give it to you." Instead of asking for wealth, long life, or the death of his enemies, Solomon made one humble request: "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." This request pleased God immensely, and not only did he grant Solomon unmatched wisdom, but he also promised him wealth, honor, and a long life. As long as Solomon remained faithful to God's commands, immediately Solomon's wisdom was put to the test. A peculiar case was brought before him. Two women claimed to be the mother of the same child. Solomon, with the wisdom granted by God, suggested dividing the child in two. However, one woman immediately offered to give up her claim, willing to let the child live. Solomon, recognizing the true mother, gave the child to her. All of Israel marveled at his wisdom, and Solomon became renowned far and wide. Under Solomon's reign, Israel reached the height of prosperity and power. His wisdom was not only known within the kingdom but also in surrounding nations. The Queen of Sheba, a powerful monarch from the south, traveled a long distance to test Solomon's wisdom. Upon meeting him, she admitted that what she had heard about his wisdom was true, and that what she had witnessed far exceeded her expectations. Solomon's wealth and wisdom became a testament not only to his greatness, but also to God's favor upon Israel. But despite all the grandeur, a shadow began to fall over Solomon's kingdom. The temptations of power, wealth, and political alliances through marriage started to erode his faith. Even though God had warned about the dangers of marrying foreign women, Solomon ignored this counsel. He married 700 wives and had 300 concubines from nations that God had specifically warned Israel not to intermarry with. These marriages were more than mere political alliances. They pulled Solomon away from his devotion to God. As Solomon grew older, his foreign wives led him to follow after foreign gods. The wisdom that God had granted him was overshadowed by the influence of his wives. Solomon, who had once built the temple in Jerusalem to honor God, now built altars and shrines to pagan gods. He erected altars for Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and for Moloch and Chemosh, gods of the Ammonites, whose worship included child sacrifice. These actions were direct violations of God's commands to the Israelites. Click like and subscribe if you want to continue following the tragic journey of Solomon and the valuable lessons we can learn from his mistakes. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss the next part of this inspiring story. Despite his immense wisdom, Solomon's heart became divided. As he grew older, the influence of his foreign wives and their gods gradually overtook his devotion to the one true God. Solomon, the very king who had built a magnificent temple to honor God, now desecrated his faith by worshipping foreign idols. His heart, once wholly devoted to God, now strayed far from the path of righteousness. The very wisdom he had asked for, to distinguish between good and evil, was now clouded by his own sinful compromises. The Bible recounts that as Solomon grew older, his wives turned his heart away from God. In 1 Kings 11:4, it says, "As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been." Solomon's love for these foreign women caused him to forsake the commandments of God, instead of adhering to the clear instruction from God to not marry foreign women who would lead him astray. Solomon's pride and desire for political alliances clouded his judgment. In violation of God's command in Deuteronomy 7:3-4, Solomon built high places for these gods, places of worship where sacrifices and idol worship took place. He built altars for Astarte, the goddess of the Sidonians, and for Molech, the god of the Ammonites, whose worship included child sacrifice, something utterly detestable to the Lord. Solomon had once been blessed with unparalleled wisdom, but now, through his disobedience, his wisdom was overshadowed by his moral compromises. God had warned Solomon on 2 separate occasions, once at Gibeon and later in Jerusalem, reminding him of the covenant he had made with him. But despite these warnings, Solomon's heart hardened, and he continued to build shrines to foreign gods. God became angry with Solomon. In 1 Kings 11:9-10, it states, "The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice." Although he had forbidden Solomon to follow other gods, Solomon did not keep the Lord's command. The Lord's anger was kindled, and Solomon's actions led to divine judgment. God's judgment on Solomon came swiftly. In 1 Kings 11:11, God declared, "Since this is your attitude, and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates." This prophecy marked the beginning of the end for Solomon's kingdom. The once united kingdom of Israel, blessed by God, would now be divided, and conflict would follow. But God, in his mercy, decided not to strip the kingdom from Solomon during his lifetime for the sake of his father David. Instead, the full consequences would fall on Solomon's son, Rehoboam. In 1 Kings 11:12-13, God stated, "I will not tear the whole kingdom from him, but will give him one tribe for the sake of David my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen." This was a mercy given due to God's promise to David, but the kingdom was now on a path of division. The consequences of Solomon's actions would affect not only him, but also his descendants and the nation of Israel. The final days of Solomon's life were filled with regret and sorrow. The wealth, wisdom, and power he had once enjoyed seemed meaningless to him as he faced the consequences of his disobedience. In the book of Ecclesiastes, which is often attributed to his later years, Solomon reflects on the futility of earthly pursuits. In Ecclesiastes 1-2, he writes, "Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless." Despite all the riches, pleasure, and accomplishments he had accumulated, Solomon realized that without God, all was in vain. His heart had been led astray by pride and the pursuit of worldly things, and now, at the end of his life, he understood that true fulfillment could only be found in God. Solomon's reflections in Ecclesiastes are filled with regret. He had pursued wisdom, wealth, and pleasure, but none of these brought lasting fulfillment. In Ecclesiastes 2:10-11, he writes, "I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. The very things that once brought him joy and satisfaction now seemed empty, as they had no eternal value. In the end, Solomon came to a sobering conclusion. All his wealth, wisdom, and power were nothing without a heart devoted to God. In Ecclesiastes 12:13, he writes, "Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind." Solomon's final words serve as a powerful reminder of the fleeting nature of worldly pursuits and the importance of staying true to God. His story, a tale of great highs and devastating lows, teaches us that no matter how much we accumulate in this life, it is only by following God with all our heart, soul, and mind that we can find true purpose. Solomon's legacy is one of wisdom, but also one of warning. His life shows us that wisdom alone is not enough. Without a heart fully devoted to God, even the wisest among us can fall. His final days were filled with reflection on the things he had gained, only to realize that without God, everything was meaningless. May we take Solomon's final lesson to heart and remember that our true purpose lies not in wealth, power, or success, but in fearing God and keeping his commandments. If you found Solomon's story enlightening and want to dive deeper into the timeless lessons from his life, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Let's continue learning from the wisdom of Solomon and apply these life-changing lessons to our own lives.